Alright, good morning everyone. Dan the Glassman here. Welcome back to the Glassman's world. Alright, so this is a GardunoGlass demonstration on how to make glass marbles. So I've been working glass since 1995. For those of you who don't know, been pretty much self-taught. I was started out by Brian Bentley, who taught me with all the basics on how to make how to do small figurines, sculptures, little beads, little pendants, marbles, how to make pipes, and all kinds of little things in the beginning, which eventually started watching different videos and watching other different glass masters and glass artists at work and picking up their techniques, but pretty much just incorporating it here and pretty much being self-taught. So today I want to show you just real quick and simple. We're not going to keep this too long, maybe an hour long or so, or less if we can, on how to make glass marbles. So one thing that you will need is a marble mold, which I actually make my own. I have a cherry wood marble mold here, as you can see, and it's soaked in water, and that way it never burns, and it stays real nice. Also, you can wax these down and keep them real nice. It was just something, I didn't have a carbon graphite mold, so one day I decided to just carve this out of a piece of this actually came from a pallet. So I got a really nice piece of redwood. I got a few more pieces back there behind the skateboard, and so I could make more. They're really nice. See, it's just a plank like this, and I just I just made a paddle out of that. Just carved it out, and as you can see, gave it a nice little wood burning right there of the drop of water. Why? Because water is life, and every drop counts. We are all drops of water in this vast ocean of life. So I strongly support water rights, and I am a water protector, and so I will always talk about water. But we're going to be working on marbles today. So you need a marble mold, and this one, as you can see, it's got so many different holes. This one doesn't have a hole. That one is just to spin the marble right on top. As you can see, there's holes all the way through, and many different sizes. And you can use either side, all depending. I didn't use this side really because, as you can see, the palette, it gave that line, but it works still. Okay, so we'll keep this in the water. Okay. So, to make marbles, you're going to need some sort of glass. So there's several different ways. We can start out with just making clear glass and mixing colors. We can mix two colors together. Yesterday I saw a real quick demonstration on how to just mix two colors together, and I was like, huh, that'd be kind of cool. We could do something like that. So let's do that. Actually, let's do a little bit of we'll do a little mix of color here, okay? So we're gonna get 3 pieces of color. We're gonna make my wife a special marble. So I made some marbles for our 3-year-old son, and he's just really into it. He really is loving it, really into the marbles. And so I was like, okay, cool. So we set up, we had some marble tracks, so I made some marbles for him for Christmas in order for him to use them on the tracks. And I found out they got to be pretty small. And I should have brought a marble in here with me. So we're going to try to do the best we can with making this as small as possible to make this actually work. All right, and now I'm just going to take a little bit of color here, and we're just going to kind of wrap it on here in just any kind of weird random way, just like that. I just want to add a little bit of white into this orange here, and we're going to mix this orange and red, and I'm thinking I might do the same thing as well with the red. So I'm already going a little advanced, guys, just because I've been doing this for 27 years, and I just want to give it a little bit of a white marbling effect to it. So I'm just going to add these little like stringers on the color, but let's pretend that I'm not adding all this white little extra color and stuff to it. Let's pretend I'm not doing that. And what we're going to do is simply just take these colors here and add them on top of each other. So let's pretend that we're starting from right now with just the two pieces of color, and we're just going to sandwich them together. Alright, so we're going to, because I added the white, I'm going to have a little bit of fun here, but if you're just starting out, I would highly recommend just getting your two pieces of color. And one thing is always having someone to teach you on how to blow glass. You know, you don't want to just start doing this on your own. Although if you do this on your own, you know, you want to look into all the different safety precautions and everything, you know. You also want to learn how to regulate your torch. You want to be able to set it up in a way where you can, you know, have a high flame, low flame, a high oxidizing flame, a high reduction flame. You know, being able to do different things like fuming techniques and stuff like that, bringing out different colors that are, you know, they have a lot of high metals and different things in them. So like the cadmium colors and stuff like that, and other, well, not cadmium colors, but the other lots of different colors that are like the dark multis, the carnivals, all the different colors that will, you know, change. Amber purple, the dark blue amber purples. There's so many different colors out these days. Alright, so what we're going to do now, we're going to sandwich these together, just like that. And I like to use my torch here, but not everyone has a torch that's old school and heavy duty like mine. So, you know, if anything, a lot of people will have their marbers on top right here, their graphite, you know, and I do have one somewhere here. So what you do is you basically heat them up and you stick them together, right? So one on top of the other, and you smash them together, and then you heat them up in a way where we're going to start on the, we're going to call this the bottom side of the orange. This will be the top side of the red. So we're going to start on the bottom side of the orange. We're going to heat up that section there, and we're going to start to get it molten. It's going to start moving on us to a point where it'll start to spin, and all we need to do is spin our fingers in opposite directions. You see that? So you just spin them in opposite directions, and you'll start creating a twist. So we're just going to create a simple twisting pattern, not too tight. We're just going to make this real nice and gentle of a twist, and we're going to bring the heat up to now the top part of the red. So we started from the bottom part of the orange, and now going to the top part of the red, and we're just going to pull it off to where there's no red on the orange. So we'll leave that all orange there. So I flame cut it basically, and now we're going to melt this down and make a small marble. So at this point here, a lot of people will use their, you know, their carbon graphite molds and things like that. I tend to use gravity all the time. So with gravity, what you want to do is you want to figure out how, and I really wish that I could set this up for you guys. This would be really cool. Maybe, like, I don't know if I could hang that. Like, it'd be cool if I had a piece of tape. I could just put that right there somehow. I can just hold it there. So, but then you're gonna get the wobble of the camera. That's not gonna work either. And I need to figure out how to clip this onto my phone. I don't have any. If I just had a rubber band, I could just rubber band this onto my phone. I don't know if that would work. That gives you kind of a glare and the frame is in the way. That gives you a glare too. And does this darker one work? I don't know if this dark flame. Alright, well whatever. Let me just continue going. This is just gonna slow us all down. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna start at the tip here and we're gonna start working down. So, and as you can see, there's a huge difference in using the glasses. My glasses broke. I don't know if you saw that the other day, or I don't know when I was live or where I was live, but at some point I was live, and we had. I wish I could set this up for you, because you could really see through that flame there. When I take this away, it gets super bright and super glaring. But what I do is I start on the very tip here, right there, and I have the flame just hitting that spot, and I'm holding it in a 45-degree angle. So instead of being parallel, I'm holding it at a 45-degree angle, so that way the gravity is going to allow this molten glass to fall down on itself, and it's going to gather. So the first thing that we ever learn or teach is how to gather, right? So we gather glass and then we turn it into like, some sort of a pendant or some sort of a marble or some kind of a cool, maybe we're making little knobs, for drawers or, whatever, making marbles, making hot air balloons, making smoking accessories, like whatever it is that we're working on. A lot of times it's just gathering the glass at first, like even when you're making like, the heads of a pipe, you still got to gather all that tubing, even though it's not solid glass, it's still hollow. You got to gather a lot of it to build up the wall, the thickness of that glass, and that way you can then blow it out, right? Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm slowly working the heat from the tip of the glass and allowing it to fall down on itself, right? We're using that gravity. And then as it's falling down on itself, it's rounding out and is slowly getting thicker this way because the glass is falling this way, right? So it's gathering. And it also has that spiral going in there too. And then we got that little bit of white all within the orange and the red. So I'm just going to use gravity to allow it to round down, and we're just going to melt all this glass together. And I know there's some glass blowers who at this point they'll start to shape it and they'll push it into their mold and really get it rounded right away. I tend to just work with gravity and let it just fall down all on its own. And you really want to watch how it falls. I'm starting with one end and then working the heat towards the middle, and I can see it doming out, like it's basically making a dome on top or a round bead on top. And eventually, both sides are going to have to round out to form that marble. So now it's gathering quite a bit. It wants to fall, so you have to continuously spin and spin and spin so it doesn't fall over onto itself. And if you keep your spin consistent, then you don't have to worry about the twist to get too tight. Like if you spin it way fast, that glass is so molten that your hand is going to go faster than the glass itself, and it's going to tighten up the pattern. So if you just keep it nice and easy and consistent and real steady, and you melt all that glass down, and you can just hold it until it pretty much forms its own marble. all on itself. So that's how you do it, you know, with just the gravity, right? And I don't know if you can see that pattern or not. It should come out here in a moment, but it's got a nice little spiral pattern. That darker part that you're seeing in there is the orange, and the lighter part is the glowing of the translucence through that red, and eventually that red's going to pop out, and it'll be just all orange and red with some white spirals all wrapped through there. So now we can start to use the marble mold. We can also pull this end off of the rod here to really get that rounded out when we put it onto the marble mold. So I'm gonna take a punty, which is basically just an extra piece of glass here, and it's got to be nice and straight, and also a clean end. So if there's any kind of schmeckle or anything on there, I call it schmeckle. It's just like, you know, leftover remnants of glass. You just want to clean that off so you have a nice clean piece to start with. Because you don't want to transfer any of that schmeckle or any of that extra glass onto the other piece or onto your marble. So now you want to get that on there, and you're going to just pull this just so we can round it out just a little bit on the end here. And then I'm going to snap it off with punty. So that way, I just wanted to get that thinner on this very end, so then when we put it into the marble mold, it's going to pretty much round up the whole entire thing here. So now this is when I get the marble mold out. And being that the way that I do it with the cherry wood mold, most glass artists who do borosilicate glass will be using a carbon graphite marble mold, which I don't have one. So I just made my own. And I was showing you how I was using the plank board over here, which is from a pallet board of some really nice hardwood cherry wood, and I was able to make my own paddle, and burnt the little water drop there on the bottom. So now we're going to use this, and I'm going to switch my hands because I can spin better with my right hand. And we're just going to put this on the marble mold and figure out which size is the best one. You know, we could use this one here, but that one might be a little bit too big for this marble mold, this marble, that we can use the edge on the smaller one. It doesn't have to be a perfect size. You can use the smaller edges in order to really round out your marbles. And I really like to just use the heat to get it round and really nice and shaped, and try not to use the mold too much. And being that it's wood, it's going to smoke. And that's the difference between the cherry wood molds and the carbon graphite molds. But I don't know, it's kind of fun. Smells good, makes a nice fire. And what I like to do is always lift it up to make sure that you're rounding that front edge as well. You know, and then you want to get that back side. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to put this back in the water just to make sure it's still soaked. And you can see this how nice and round that is already. So now we just have to take it off by putting a punty onto this end, flame cutting it here, and rounding out the front end. And then we could call it a day, or we could do more punty points by making sure that this top end is round and everything. But if you do the marble mold just right, you should be able to get it. Now I see there's a little bit more schmeckle that came off the marble itself, So we're just going to clean that up. Always make sure. Now this time I want to really try to not stick this and melt it. I want to get it nice and straight on axis, meaning that when I spin both pieces of glass, that they're really nice and straight. It looks like a straight line straight through there. You know, it's not wobbling where one's higher than the other and it's got this weird wobble to it. Now we're going to go in, we're going to do our best to not get that flame to touch the punty at all. That way we don't mess up the round shape on that side. We can keep that side round. We're going to do our best to pull off the excess glass here because, as you can see, you know, it's not round here, it's got a point. So we're going to pull off some of this, which is going to help. Now when I pull it, I'm going to make sure that I stay within the pattern of the spiral. So I'm going to twist it this way, and basically, if I grab a hold of it and keep my tweezers this straight, not move them, and just keep spinning the glass, it's going to keep that pattern going in that same way, just like that. We just put that in the jar there. Alright, and now we'll go in and melt the front of the face of the marble here, and we're going to get this point. As you can see, it's got a little, like a nipple or a bump on it, so we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to do our best to keep the flame away from touching underneath here. So a good way is to basically make sure that your flame's not touching by using the marble to block that flame, and also using the edge of the flame only to melt out that bump there. So if you use just that edge of the flame, you don't really want to stick the whole marble in. It's slowly going to round it down, you know, slowly round it down, and then eventually we'll just get the marble mold again and we'll hit this side and we'll round it up. And it should be good, but we can also go in on the sides and then hit a punty on the side. So instead of going on straight axis, then you hit it this way, so then you can start spinning it, rotating it this way. So then you can get the marble in all the different directions. You know, a sphere, you know, like a circle has 360 degrees, but a sphere has 360 degrees all the way around in all directions, all points. I wouldn't even know how to calculate all that. Well, good luck trying. I'm sure there's someone who's figured it out, you know. But then you can go even smaller and tighter on the circle. You know, they got the whole 360 point camera rooms where you go in, like on the movie sets, and they set you up in a, like they just tell you stand here, and then you got cameras like in a sphere all around you, so then they can do these cool like special effects and stuff. But it's still, you got points all in between all those points as well. Alright, so we just round it out now. When we use our marble mold, we make sure we round up that front like that, see? And lift it up so I can round it out as I'm spinning it, you know? So I'm still spinning it and getting it nice and round. So just do that again one more time, just to make sure. Very nice. So, I mean, it's pretty much done at this point. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it would be almost perfectly round at this point. But, like I said, you could then hit it here. And that all that takes is just moving your punty. That's just getting another piece of glass, sticking it on. But then you got to be real careful by transferring the punties, and you got to do this quickly to where when this one's molten, you have enough give to snap this one off without it snapping off of both of them. And that's the trick. So let me show you how to do that. So we'll go right here, attach it, snap it real quick, and then you see it just wants to try to like move around on me. So let me try to straighten that out without trying to attach it. Alright. See, now we got it on a whole different axis. And that's how you also do like reverse axis and things, where then you can, then I could take this marble and I could spin it again and it would create a whole different pattern, you know? But we're not going to do that with this one. We're going to leave this one as is. And I just wanted to show you how to transfer it over like that. And you got to be real careful and do it quickly, and then you got to try to straighten out that marble, you know, you got to straighten out that punty to make sure that it stays nice and straight and consistent. You know, I don't know if you can see. You know, it's pretty round. It doesn't like wobble on the axis, you know. It doesn't have that wobble. So then you just round it out again. So you just take your heat to the front again, and then you get your paddle, and then you just round that out again. Right? So then you just take your paddle here, your marble mold, you heat up your marble, and go in and round it on the edge here. So now you're just hitting it on a whole different side, and then always lift it up. So then you get that front side, always round it. All right, just like that, real simple. So now what you have to do is you're gonna put this down on the table here, and I'm going to snap this off. We're going to actually use this side so it's a lot closer to me. We're going to snap it off right here. I'm simply going to put it on here and just hit it right on that punching mark so it snaps. Right on the punching, it snaps. Then you want to put this in the flame to clean up that punchy. And you may need to, you know, roll it over to make sure you get it just right. You know, move it over with your tool there. That way you can hit that edge just right. Get rid of the punchy mark. I have a cherry mold here, so I'm trying not to heat it up in the flame and catch it on fire. And you can usually see the punchy mark. You know, there's a difference in the reflection of the light. You can see it in the light, and you can usually tell where the marble, the punchy was connected, and you can tell when it rounds itself out. So you just want to heat it up, get that all rounded, and then make sure you don't touch that soft part, and you just spin it around on the mold to make sure you round it out. And then we're going to carefully not drop this, right? And we're going to carry this over here to the kiln, where we open up the kiln and we just dump it in and we just drop it. Just like that. And that's how you make a two-color. I use 3, but that's how you pretty much make a 2-color marble, you know, something like that. Now, we can do other things too, you know, like you can always make. Now, the one thing about the marbles, right? The marbles can also be used for carb caps and terp slurpers and all that stuff. So that's the one thing about making marbles these days, is now you got all these marble collectors who are in the game for like doing the terp slurpers and all the, you know, all that. It's a whole different game now. It's not just making marbles, but making functional marbles, right? So one thing that we've always learned how to do, one of the first things ever, right, is how to push a mushroom, right? So let's make a mushroom marble. That'd be really easy, quick and simple. And we'll do a couple more minutes of doing this demonstration on how to make marbles. We're about 30 minutes in now. It's 8:30 in the morning. I gotta go take care of some business here. So do some work. Looks like it's a little bit cloudy or overcast today, now that I look outside. But good thing that we're working inside. That's always good. I always got a lot of side jobs and things that I do besides blowing glass, besides being a musician. I'm also, you know, I do a lot of gardening. I help others with their garden projects and composting and building raised beds and sub-irrigated planters, the SIP planters, making Dutch buckets and doing all kinds of cool stuff. All right, so let's see, what color is this? Huh. I wonder what that looked like. Okay, let's just do, we'll make it a nice solid color. We'll use that. Just drop something. Oh, a tube. Always dropping those tubes. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stab this with a pretty big, a solid, I don't know what color this is. But it's almost like a teal or turquoise. It could be peacock, is what I'm thinking it is. I don't remember. Agua azul, maybe. I think it's peacock, though. I don't know if you can see that color there. It's a pretty cool color. Looks better on the black. All right. So what you do with the mushroom, I don't know if you know how to make mushrooms yet or not, so this would be kind of like a mushroom demo, is you get the tip of the rod here very hot, molten hot, right? I get the tip of the color rod a little bit molten, right? Just get that tip molten, and then you get to a point where it's molten enough to stab it in, so it goes directly in the center, and you stab it, and as I stab it, I spin it, so I can make sure I keep that nice and centered, and then you push that in. Now, we could have added a little dot of color on the end of this peacock or agua azul, whatever color this is here. You know, like a caramel, like a contrasting color. You know, even red would have been nice. White would have been nice. Caramel. Even a darker blue. And what that would do is if you add a little tiny dot on the tip of your stringer that you're going to stab in, it creates this beautiful ring that goes around the rim. Let me show you this. It goes around the rim of the mushroom. You see that? And that one there is actually a jellyfish, I think. Maybe that's a mushroom, I don't know. It could have been a jellyfish that I attempted to do a different way that I normally do, and I just made it into a marble. And that was before I had a marble mold. So this one, I made it, then I realized, oh no, I don't have a marble mold. So this is all done by gravity. And I was like, okay, we can't mess around with that no more. We need to make one. So then I made one that day, and I made that cherry wood marble mold, which is cool. Alright, so once you stab in the mushroom, right, and it's all pushed in there, you want to stab it in and keep pushing it. You've got to be careful not to break your stringer, but you stab it in nice and firmly and straight, and the more you push it in, the bigger the mushroom cap grows. Then you got an air bubble in there. You won't be able to see it. I don't want to lose the heat. But there's an air bubble that's in there. It's kind of V-shaped. You know, it's like you made a crater, you know, by pushing that thing right in there, that it like made this V-shaped crater of air on each side of the that stringer you stabbed in there. So that stringer is kind of just sticking out in the center, and there's a bunch of air. It's like an air pocket that's wrapped around. So we need to get rid of that air. So we put the flame directly above the mushroom cap, and we start to hit it there until you can see the whole piece gets molten, and you'll start to see the stem underneath the cap. The stem that's protruding directly under the cap will start to get covered up by that clear glass. And basically it adheres to it, and it looks thicker, and because of the magnification of the glass and everything. So once it touches itself, it makes it look a lot bigger than the one that's not attached. And then you can walk that air bubble out real simply. And that's something that a teacher would have to actually be showing you while you're wearing glasses in a studio to really show you and describe how that air bubble is moving out and getting it out to the end without trapping any air to make a really, really nice mushroom. So this is just one solid color, peacock. It's going to glow like orange or red or whatever in the camera here, but it is a blue, you know, it's this color here, the teal or the, you know, turquoise, or the peacock is what they call it. And as you can see, there's the mushroom right in there. Nice, really large mushroom with a really large mushroom cap. So now we're going to proceed to turning this into a marble. So how do we do that? It's very simple. Now we just, you know, it's pretty much rounded out on the tip. We're going to round it out a little bit more so it'll, you know, it'll expand out a little bit more on the side here, and just get a little bit bigger. And actually, do I want to make it bigger? We want to keep these small. I'm going to actually keep it right there as is. I'm going to pull it off the top. We're going to try to keep this really small, but I guess with a really large mushroom in there. I forget, we got to make these to where they fit in the marble track. So I'm not making these specifically for the dab rigs. I know that they will work for a lot of different dab rigs. I mean, they just got to be a little bit bigger than the opening of the, you know, of that, the rig that you. What do you call that? Come on. I forget. The banger. There you go. So it just has to fit, you know, over the rim of the banger for it to really work. But the marbles are mostly made for like the turf slurpers these days, you know, where you got a set, you got a big marble on top with the little marble that fits inside, and that marble's got to be precise. It's got to be the perfect size, so it's small enough it's got to be big enough to cover that hole, but small enough to be able to hop up and down with just your breath. You know, you don't want something too heavy, or else that'll be a hard pull and really hard to hit. Okay, so now I got to be real careful because I don't want to pull. If I pull it up too much all at once, I will pull the mushroom top or cap up, which I started doing a little bit. And if I do that, it'll make the mushroom cap pointy. But if you want a pointy mushroom cap, that's how you do it. I don't want a pointy mushroom cap, but we are going to slowly peel away this, by not getting it hot all the way through and just peeling the outer surface of this marble now, and try not to let that heat penetrate all the way in to the into the mushroom. And also, when I pull it, I want to make sure that it's really molten, because if it gets hard, it'll start pulling part of that mushroom cap as well. So whatever I'm pulling, I'm making sure it's really nice and gooey, and that it just comes off real nice. Now, I don't know if this one's going to be small enough. This one might be a little too big. I have to just keep peeling a little away and a little away. And try not to get that point on the top of that mushroom. I don't think I've ever peeled away a mushroom this close. That's like right on the top of the mushroom cap there. I don't know if you can see that or not. But it's pretty much on the top of that there. Alright, so I'm going to round it out now. I don't think I can pull any more glass from it. So this will be the size of it here. So now we're just going to round this front part of it. Hold on one sec before we continue here. I noticed it does have a little bit of stuff on the outside here. Sometimes the glass, have like a piece of dust on it, and when you're heating it up in the flame with these glasses, with the titanium glasses on, and you can really see like all the impurities and imperfections on the surface of the glass. And I could leave them, but being that this is making this for my wife, I want to have this really nice for her. And this also gives you a demonstration on how I go in, I heat up just that surface area where I see there's like a little bit of, looks like, I don't know, like kind of makes the glass look kind of blurry looking, or maybe like little dots, little white marks on it. And you can only see it when it's heated up, nice and molten hot, So we're just wiping it. When I'm doing it, I'm getting the surface molten. I'm taking this other piece of glass, and we're basically just wiping the surface off of this mushroom. And I have to be careful not to get any kind of air bubbles or anything. So now you can see it's not perfectly round at all, so we will have to work on rounding it out. But there's no air bubbles from anywhere where I pulled it. And I think I got pretty much all of that weird stuff that I really wanted to get rid of there. Alright, so now I've had so much heat on this whole thing, the puntee might have molded to it, or fused to it and stuck to it. I'll still be careful to keep the heat towards the top of the mushroom cap here, and that way we can try to still take the puntee off The reason why you don't want to fuse the punchy to the marble is when you snap it off, either the punchy is going to take a chunk of the marble, or the marble is going to take a chunk of the punchy. Now, if you take a chunk of the marble, you're going to have this little dimple, and that's going to take some time. You might have to add a little bit of glass into it to save that, or you might have to, if there's a piece of the punchy sticking off of it, then you're going to have to remove that, and then you're going to get like a little nipple. So you either get a nipple or you get a dimple. Alright, so now I'm just rounding it up, and we're going to do our best to heat this edge here without getting that flame on the punchy, but it might flash the punchy some, but I have to get on this the top edge here, so I have to like really skim it on the underside of the flame. So as you can see, I'm just barely touching that bottom edge like that, so that way that flame doesn't wrap around and get into underneath where the punchy is. And then also, once I get this molten, I can go in and use the marble mold, of course, to really help with getting that nice and round. And you'll be able to see when you're rounding it, you know, that there's different light reflections, so you can tell, oh, that's not round, compared to when it really gets round. And then you can see the light reflections on the edges, and you're like, oh, okay. And until you actually start making these, you're really not going to know what I'm talking about with the light reflections, or until someone points it out in the studio and shows you, like, yeah, you see on the edge, like that line of white brightness doesn't stay consistent until it's perfectly round. You can go with the bottom edge of the flame, you can go with the top edge of the flame. Alright, so I feel like when I did that, it kind of moved out of the paddle there and got a little flattened on the edge. So I have to make sure now that when I go in, I round it back up. We do our best not to do that. So go real nice and gentle. Make sure to go all the way around, all the way on the front side as well. Coming around on the back side. Just like that. Alright, and then I always put this back in the water, always to keep that nice and cool. And we'll get our punchy here. Where is our punchy? Or is that the piece that we dropped on the floor? Oh no, there it is. Alright, so then this is the longer punchy here. Now it's kind of crooked. I'm going to round up this tip. I'm going to kind of get it to where it's just like a big kind of a gather. Not a big gather, but that way I can round it up, get it nice and straight on axis again. So it's not all wobbly and wonky. And then I can really touch that onto the edge here to get that nice and round. So then you want to get your punchy molten. You don't want to get the marble molten. So that way you don't do anything with the marble. Now I see there's a little bit of something on here. I don't know if you can see that. See that thing on there? Well, it was there, and then now you just see the reflection. But there's a little piece of like colored glass from the last marble we made, so we're gonna pull that off. Now we're gonna stick it here, nice and straight. As this is molten, you snap it off the other one. See that? So as this is molten, you got just a little bit of time to really get in there. Now that's barely holding on. You got to be real gentle. You got to finesse this. You heat up your other end here. You know, if you have wobbly hands, you know, just having shaky hands, you might shake it off the punchy here. So I'm just going to heat up this tip here, or the end where the punchy was, the punchy mark, and then try to bring that heat up and around towards the side, so that way we can get this all nice and rounded. We get our paddle again. Every time I get the paddle out, I always have to shake it off, and I just put it on my lap, so my lap gets a little damp after a few sessions of marbles here. Alright, so now we're just going to round that up. Starting with the back side, bringing it forward, always rounding. And I'm keeping my hand here real light. I'm just trying to let the gravity do its work and really let the marble mold do the trick here. I'm really not trying to push it in, press it in, or anything like that. I'm really just trying to let it lightly just skim on the edge there, you know, and round itself out as best as it can. And then when you lift it up like that, then it helps you to get all the different angles. So then you just take it off, right? We're going to flip this tool around once again. Flip it around here. We're going to get our tweezers here. We'll put this on. Snap that right off like that. And then we'll position that punchy mark. We know it's right on top of the mushroom cap there. So we'll position it in a way to where that torch will just be able to get to the angle of it. And it should be able to just round it out real nice. Just by hitting the edge of it there. And if you do that to where you don't get any sort of you know, you don't take a chunk off of your, you know, you don't take a chunk off of anything, off your punchy, off your marble, then you should be able to just round that out real nicely like that, you know. We're going to drop this in the kiln real fast so it doesn't burn the marble mold. Let's try not to hit the other one, but they're marbles, so it doesn't really matter. You don't want to hit them though, because you don't want to create a chip or something like that. So just roll it gently to the other side of the kiln, and there you go. Alright, now that kiln looks like it's about hot enough that we can yeah, it's almost at 1080 right there. So we're pretty much at that point where like it's almost done, you know. So now I'm wondering what can we do in a little bit of time, like it's getting up to temperature. We could try to make another marble real quick. I would like to get myself a turf slurper so I could really try out how to make them and how small I'm supposed to make everything and all those little things, you know. Let's do something like let's go with the red and blue. We're gonna make ourselves a little tiny pill. And then they're supposed to be skinny enough to where, I don't know, like 5 millimeter is what I'm guessing. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little red, I'm going to add a little blue, and we're going to smash them together so there should be a straight line going right down the center of them. And then we're going to flame cut them off on each side equally, so that way they're about the same size. With a nice flat line going through the center there. Alright, so we just sandwich those together. Alright, and then we'll pull back the blue first. Once we smash that on, we're going to pull that back. Pull back the red. We just got to heat up a little bit of the thick portion of the red, and then it'll taper out that center there. And now the trick is getting them both that same thickness on each side, and to where it's going to work for the turf slurper. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll do this red side first, since it's kind of more translucent, I guess. I don't know, maybe I should have opaque one first. We'll round up the tip to make it like a, pill shape. Do something like that. So that's one side, and then we'll take off the other side. So you can see that clear there. Now that clear should come back all into red. And we'll take off the other side. Here, we'll use the clear punchy for this. Cool, and that's nice and clean because we use a clean marble. Sometimes it's good to use the same color for your punchy. All right, now I'll just take this off here. Now the trick is trying to get that line directly in the center. And that red's coming back, so yeah, like I said, I probably should have done the opaque side first, so then I could see where that line is. So that's really hard to see now. They're both super opaque, but now you can see kind of where that line is. Alright, so we're going to do the red and blue pill. So it's a matrix. You can do the red and blue. So that way it can just keep you in the same constant state of ignorance. Just kidding. Cool. There we go. It's like the Superman pill. Alright, so now I'm just going to snap it off. Going to preheat the tweezers here. And I'm going to grab it closer to the blue side, snap it, get rid of the punchy mark so there's no little jagged end there. Just barely put that in the flame and just flame kiss it. And voila. There you go. Little tiny pill. Okay, so now we got the red and blue pill. So now I think we need a red and a blue marble. But I'm going to add a little white in between it. So I'm going to show you little tricks here, little tricks of the trade. So how am I going to do this? We're simply going to take the blue here. This is a cobalt, probably a cobalt 2 or regular cobalt. Alright, so I'm going to take this white and I'm going to smash a little bit of it. We're going to make it flat, and then we're going to draw. And you know, they have these tools, these like tweezers that got mashers on the end. Those work really well. Or you can also just use your paddle here and pad, well, the pad on the table and your paddle, right? So then you can just take that, smash it. I like to smash it, flip it around, smash it again. Try to keep that straight. If it's not straight, you know, you can always just heat it up and then straighten it out. And that's pretty close, right? So then it's flat, right? So then we're going to add a little bit of blue on one side, a little bit of red on the other side. Oh, that'd be kind of cool, actually. I didn't even think about that. You just keep that white line directly in the dead center. I did not think about that. So I'm kind of just being artistic here on how I want to make these marbles. And I don't really have anything set in stone on how I want to make them. That's the cool thing about blowing glass. You know, you can just jump on the torch. Like, unless you get married to your torch and you're always, you know, you have well, not married to the torch, but maybe married to your clients, and you have all these orders to always fulfill. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity to just sit around and play. It's like, hey, what are we gonna do today? What are we gonna play with? You know. So sometimes people don't really get that opportunity on making stuff. So it's always good to be able to get back to that, I feel, and be able to just start playing again. Alright, so what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of mash these together. Alright, so I'm just taking the colors. I got red on one side, blue on the other, the white going to get smashed in. And it looks like that blue might have a lot more color to it. So we'll add a little bit more red. And we're going to use our pad and paddle trick again to smash that. And really, really smash it. And then, like I said, we're going to add some red, because you can definitely tell now how much bigger that blue is on that one side compared. So we're going to add some red now. And all you have to do is just get them both to that same molten state again. So then you can mix them together, stick them to where there's no, like, you know, flawless flawless seal, sticking those colors back together. Alright, let's see what that does. Now that might be a little too much. That's always the fun part about glass. Like, and this is me just being a perfectionist, you know, you guys, this is a little bit advanced glass work here, doing the wiping technique, using the color rod itself, and, you know, just playing around, but getting the gist of it, knowing that you need a marble mold, you need to be able to move back and forth and switching your punches from one side to the other, and you know, learning how to just keep glass equal on each side, keeping the spins equal, all that kind of stuff, you know. All right, so now let me see. I'm going to go back with the red here. So they're still thinking it needs a little bit more red. That's so crazy. A little bit more red, huh? But then also, we're going to use this to hold it. Now we're going to take the white off here. When you get rid of the white, you're going to peel it off the end here. Just try to peel it off nice and sideways. As you can see, I'm using the underneath of my torch there. I'm trying to use some kind of leverage, you know, so that way I can pull it just nice and straight without bending or doing anything to, you know, when I'm pulling on it, this whole entire thing wants to kind of then get pulled forward. All right. Cool. So now we're going to get this back on axis. So you see how it's a little bit wobbly? It's like, so now I'm going to hit the red side here. And we can even use our tweezers here to kind of help with getting it back on point. You can even grab this whole thing here and just force it over. As long as it's molten enough, but the part that you're grabbing isn't, then you should be able to just like force things over and really get it back onto where you want it to be. You have the power to manipulate the glass as much as you want. Alright, so now we got that red in there with that blue. So now it might be wise to punch it up. Actually, we're going to just start rounding it like this. And then I'll punch it up. So I'm going to start with the white band, so we can try to get that all in the center. And also I'm going to mash it all together. To try to keep that band nice and thin. So it doesn't try to widen up on me here as we're rounding it up. I'm just mashing it together, and as I'm spinning it, I can see how it wants to like either go a little crooked this way or that way. So I'm also using the paddle to shift it and making sure that line, when I'm looking at it like this, that white line stays nice and vertical through that. This is going to be a cool marble. I've never made anything like this before, actually. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just having fun here. It's always fun to just be able to just play. You know? That was one thing I was talking about the other day. Was in life, You know, we acquire these friends, you know, throughout our life. And it dawned on me the other day when I was watching this video on how most of our friends that we acquire are like usually like in our youth, you know, in our time when we're just always busy playing. You know, our best friends that we remember from, you know, when we were little kids is why? Because we had fun playing like in the fort, making little couch forts, playing in the tree house, you know, going on these long hikes together and adventuring like for the first time ever out and about away from your family, you know, like it's your friends that you're going and you're having fun, you're playing with. And I realized this, that, you know, we get to a point in life where we stop playing and everything comes, it's just all about work. You know, we get so submerged into these bills and this life, like it's just, that's all it is. You know, we just got to pay bills, and pay more bills, and we got to stay focused on work, or the bills are going to catch up to us. So you got to continuously work, or the bills are going to continuously catch up on us, right? Always living in this fear mentality, and we never get to enjoy life anymore. We never actually get to play and have fun. And so I realized that, you know, later on in life, as we become adults, we end up not having these relationships anymore like we did as we were when we were children. You know, it's like, why can't we make friends like we used to? You know, why is it that, you know, I can't have a best friend like back when I was 10 years old, or when I was 13, or when I was 18, like, you know, all these things. And then it dawned on me, like, wait a minute, no, I actually have had friends like that in my older ages, but these friends were the friends that I played music with. I played music with. You know, friends who we built projects together. You know, we were just playing, building something together. You know, it's just, these are those things that I realized, like, wait a minute, actually, maybe I have been doing these things, and I realized as adults, we have to continue to play. We got to, like, you know, join a band so we can have these bandmates to play music with. We got to join sports so we can have these other teammates that we can play these sports with, you know, different games, you know, go into different tournaments and different things. And it just, I don't know, that other day when I figured that out, I was like, wow, it truly is all about manifesting. Hold on a sec. I'm going to redo that. It truly is all about manifesting heaven on earth. It's really all about bringing all that love, all that fun. Like, that's the whole reason why we're here in the first place, you know? So, I don't know, that was really, really awesome. You know, it just dawned on me too that I just made this here. I can easily do the same thing I just did, right? With a little bit of black in the center, and then put some red on one side, some white on the other side, and then that becomes Pokemon. Right? And then I just got to put a little dot in the front, right? And bam, it's a Pokemon marble. Ooh, Pokemon marbles, guys. Who wants that for their turf surfers? I think I can make one. I know I can make one. We'll just put it like that. Alright, maybe this one will be for a turf slurper. We're going to make this one a little bit smaller than the average size marble, because I do know that for the turf slurpers it's just slightly smaller. And I have all of the actual specs, but they're all saved on the phone, and that's what we're using here for recording right now. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Those of you just getting here now, I'm Dan the Glassman. You're watching the Glassman's World, and this is GardunoGlass, and a demonstration on how to make marbles. So right now we're working on something quite advanced. And I'm thinking I may have to add a little bit of glue now. So interesting. I don't know. Well, maybe not. Maybe I can round that side up a little bit. Alright, so we're going to get the marble mold now. This looks full. Bring the temperature down on the kiln soon. I'm going to try to get this really molten here. So when I put it on here, I have to sometimes give it a little pull back to really get that part rounded there on that back side. I'm going to use the other side real quick. Beautiful. Alright, and now that looks really awesome. So there's red on this side. There's a blue on this side with that stripe going right down the middle. That's going to be one of the coolest marbles. Or turf slurpers, or both. Alright, so I'm just going to use the red for a punchy. Just going to attach that, snap it. Go on to this side. I'm going to clean it up nicely. Get this side rounded on the marble mold real quick. And then we're going to snap it off and clean it up and call it a day. I wasn't sure if I had sealed that or not. We could have called it a day already. But it is what it is. I wanted to make sure it didn't have any chunks taken out of the marble. That's what it was. Alright, we round that up right there. Nice. Perfect. And that's how you make a marble, guys. Then, I'm going to flip this around. Snap it off so we can clean up that tip there. We'll turn it so that way the punching mark should be right there on the angle. Just hit it, get it molten, where you know that that's nice and, it's nice and soft there, and then just make sure that it's all around it. And then drop it in. Drop it in. Let me show it to you real quick. Alright, starting to smoke. We're dropping it in. And now I gotta make one more that's bigger. Woo. What time is it? Oh my gosh, it's already 9:30. That was an hour ago. Alright, I'm gonna stop there, guys, because it's gonna take too long. I gotta go get some work done. So we're gonna leave it at that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. This is the Glassman's World. This is the GardunoGlass demonstration on how to make marbles. I'm Dan the Glassman, and I appreciate you guys sitting here and watching throughout this whole thing. If you stuck in through the end, I really do appreciate it. And comment below, just real simple in all capital letters, glass marbles. And if you do so, what I'd like to do is enter you into a competition to actually win. Maybe I'll give away this Turp Slurper set that we actually make right here with the pill and this marble here. So, or I'll just make another one. I'm not sure, but this is going to be a pretty cool one, but I can always replicate them, right? I can always make me another set. So, comment below, all capital letters, glass marbles. And be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Dan the Glassman. This is the Glassman's World. Alright, peace. We're out.